Hello everyone, it is 11:30 Central, so we will get started. Thank you for tuning in to today's presentation, Enhance Your Sports Medicine Program with Realityworks Kits. My name is Kelsey and I will be your moderator for today's presentation. Before we get started, I want to cover a couple things. First, today's presentation has been pre-recorded and all attendees will receive a link containing the recording as well as a copy of the PowerPoint slides and free resources. For those of you attending live today, you also receive a certificate of completion for attending today's presentation. Keep an eye on your email. You will receive that email within 24 hours after the presentation. We will have time at the end for Q&A, so feel free to type your questions in the chat or Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass things over to Jamie.
Welcome everyone to our webinar, Enhance Your Sports Medicine Program with Realityworks Kits. We are going to be sharing 5 different kits that are focused on sports medicine and how they can be implemented into your classrooms and into your programs to help you with teaching sports medicine. Just to kind of give a reminder for everyone who Realityworks are, we are a experiential learning company that focuses on um, uh, career and technical educations in many different areas, some of the main areas being that of family consumer science, agriculture, welding and trades, and then also health science. And so we have over 200 different products that focus on helping students get hands-on learning for career readiness. We are going to talk today about our health science product line, and within that, are areas of expertise and knowledge within sports medicine. We're excited to have you here today and look forward to really kind of sharing some of that expertise and knowledge that could be brought into your classroom. My name is Jamie McIntosh. I am presenting today. I am the Education Programs Manager at Realityworks, have a background in education, and have a kinesiology focus in a lot of the different areas that we're going to be talking about today. So with that being said, excited to talk through these products today, and excited to be here with you today to walk through all the different products that we have. So let's talk about what is going to happen today as we get started. So attendees will learn about 5 different kits. We're going to start with the sports nutrition lab kit, talk about our environmental factors in sports medicine kit, go to taping and wrapping skills sim kit, rehabilitation and modalities scenario kit, and then finish up with our concussion education kit. We have some of the products here today, so I'll be sharing and showing that to you today, but it's all wrapped around in this idea of how can we help students understand and to learn sports medicine. We want to be able to bring these things into the classroom for you so you can implement them and implement your sports medicine within that larger view that you are working on all the time. So with these kits, we have 5 different kits and we are touching on 5 different areas within the sports medicine 1 standards and alignment. So in this case here, each one of the kits that we're talking about today focuses on one unit within that foundations of sports medicine within the National Athletic Trainers Association. Now, this can work outside for occupational therapy, for physical therapy. It can go to many other areas, but really the focus that we're talking about today is the NATA and what it can do there. So we will mention and go through each one of these as we talk through today. I wanted to break it up into 2 sections today because we're going to start with what I would call our athletic injury prevention. We're going to talk through some of the products that can be used and taught in your athletic training classes, in your sports medicine classes, to really focus on how do we help the athlete the injury that they may have sometime. How do we prevent those? What do we do ahead of the time? But it also then leads into what do you do if you do get an injury? What can you do to be focused on that? Or after the fact or seeing issues, what do you do to change those behaviors or those situations that your students are in? Then we're going to switch over and we're going to talk about athletic rehab and recovery. really focusing on the rehabilitation and modalities scenario kit, and then our concussion kit. What do we do when that happens? How do we get those athletes back on the field? How do we get them ready to go on the court or for their on the pitch, wherever they're going to be? What do we do to help them in that rehab and recovery? So then we can get back to, and again, this is kind of circular in this sense. Athletic injury prevention starts, it then goes to our athletic rehab and recovery. So in this case here, I want to start with some practical tips for best practices. So in this case here, we're going to start with three different S's: our scenarios, then our space, and then our skills. Whatever we're talking about today, I want you to be thinking about, in this case here, what are those scenarios that we can be using. We bring to the table a lot of different scenarios within each one of our kits, allowing you to not have to create new scenarios every single time that you're teaching, but we are going to give you different scenarios that you can just go ahead and implement right into your classrooms. Now, with those scenarios, we have a pre and a post brief that is always something that you want to be thinking about, setting up the situation. So a pre-brief is really getting you ready for the scenario. What is it that you need to give the students or your participants so they have a background knowledge of the situation? And then the most important is that reflection, that after that post brief or that post debrief, where you're really walking through, what did we just hear? What did we learn? What could we do different? The other thing we want to do with scenarios is give realistic expectations. So in this case here, those experiences that we're going to give and those expectations that we have are just, I really should be that, is we want to try to make it as realistic as possible. So the students, when they walk into it, that realistic experience, they then have the expectation that this is as close to real life as we can get. This is the real thing. So what does that look like? Well, in some cases, it's making sure that you're using the correct industry bandages or supplies or equipment. It's also something where you want to make sure that you're focusing on what is best practice for those scenarios. What is those real world implications? That brings us over to space. When we talk about space, this is something where, what is that real world options that you have? If you are talking about a situation that happens on the football field, it might be the best place to actually do the hands-on learning on the football field. If you're talking about a basketball court, bring your students to a basketball court so they have those real world situations and spaces that they're in. Now, it could be something that you're, in the athletic training room. It might be a more of a lab setting. That is where, then again, give them those options where, okay, we're going to do this, and the person has to be sitting down or laying down. Give them those space options and allow that experience to be have. It helps with professionalism. It helps your students be able to understand what that is. The other piece of that is, a lot of times for best practices is walk through, what are you missing, or what should you have in this situation. If you don't have that ability to get them to the field of play or to that lab experience, talk through what are those things that you are missing, because that then gets them to realize what they would have, what other situations they need to be thinking about, bringing all that to them in that world. And then finally, skills. It's important for every time you talk and interact with your students in these kits and with what you're working on, that you are always focusing on proper technique, making sure that they're not cutting the corners, not doing it uh, incorrectly, but they're doing it in the way that it is supposed to be done. It also is great to have with those skills as an industry standard. Now, every single one of our products, and we'll walk through the NATA standards and what it hits, but those industry standards are very important, making sure that they are understanding that it's not just doing CPR, but it's the way they do it, how they do it, all has industry standards. What are they doing to make sure that they are focused on that? So including those things. So scenario, space, and skill, those are some practical tips that can help you to think through, what are we going to teach and how are we going to teach it? as we talk through some of our different environmental safety pieces, it might be a place where you bring them and think about space, bring them outside, not on a beautiful sunny day, but on a rainy day, on a windy day. Walk through what are those scenarios going to could be on days that aren't perfect, aren't there, because that's what a lot of times this is what we're working to teach with our students is not when everything goes right, but what happens when something goes wrong. So looking at scenario, the space, and then the skill that you're trying to teach, walking through those things is always a great piece to walk through with your students. So with that, let's really dig into what that means within some of our sports med kits. All right. So we're going to start here in our first kit is our sports nutrition lab kit. Now, this is a great kit. We have it here. Wrong side. We have it right here, our sports nutrition lab kit. It comes all box complete, ready to go, but it includes things like your skin fold, skin calipers, your body fat skin fold calipers. It includes a 2 pound, all right, fat model. So when you show this and say, okay, what does 2 pounds of fat look like? All right, here's what it looks like. This is what fat really kind of is. So then when you're talking about body mass, when you're talking about your body fat skin fold, all right, what does that really mean to your students? Giving them that hands-on understanding. We give you the different types of tools that you need in this kit. So the calipers, the measuring tapes, we give those things for you to be able to actually do the scenarios in this case. So you're not just talking about nutrition, but you're also looking and saying, okay, what are things like body weight, body composition, body fat? Now, what are the things that you need to do for athletes? What are some things that you should be focusing on in that world? So all of this is a kit that you bring in your classroom, but it's so much more than that because when you open it up, you allow students to start actually doing the different things that they would need to do to understand what nutrition's all about. Now, I want to walk through the NATA training in this case because what you see here, what's highlighted, is this kit itself. It focuses and it fits Unit 8 of the NATA training. So there's practical applications about nutritional principles. There's a lot of critical thinking that is included with this because you have to go through, okay, here's the situation. Here are the different types of nutrients. What does that mean? What do you want to include with that? And then understand the impact of nutrition on athletic performance. Why would you have a sugary drink for certain types of athletic performances? And for others, you're looking at protein. What are the differences? Why is that important? And what does that do? So to give a little explanation and a little understanding, we have some visuals here. This is from our curriculum. Some PowerPoint slides that we have in our curriculum, and we're going to just talk about our food labels here. So an example to give you and to use within your classes is what we're calling a fueling Friday challenge. So in this case, what you would do is you would start with and have your students plan a pre and a post workout meal plan. All right. Use the food labels that are included with our product. Use the different nutrient values that you have with our product and be able to go through and say, okay, what is the specific type of athlete that you're going to be working with? What sport are they in? All right. What do you think they need both pre and post workout? What are the things that you're trying to accomplish? So that's your scenario again, is getting that scenario to understand. And then, all right, what are some different things that you want to include in there? So we would suggest things like the intensity of training, the activity or the event. It could be a post workout and a pre workout. It could be, hey, they're going to be playing in a game. What are you going to do then? Is there a difference between a workout and a game situation? All right. What if it has different types of intensities? So they're just coming back from an injury. Okay. What would you be looking at there? They're just getting ready for the state championship track meet or football game. What are you going to have them do because of differences in the intensity of the training, in the timing of the training, what's going on in that world? So nutrition can be something that you can then break down into what we call that fueling Friday challenge, where you do this on a Friday, where every Friday the students know, hey, we're going to look at food labels. We're going to decide, okay, what nutritional value do we need? And then how does that work into a pre and a post workout meal? Now, to go one step farther, have them do those meal plans, and then if you have the ability to, actually have them walk it out, buy those foods, go and do that activity in real life and see what happens. Now, you can do another way too of showing what you would say is a good nutritional fueling pre and post workout meal, and do one that you would say is a lacking nutrition meal, and then have both of those options there. Have students actually try it out, see what happens, give them a task, have them run the mile, have them do a pickup game of basketball, and then be able to see one Friday, write down, what did you feel? Another Friday, what did you feel? Have them do the learning, the actual learning. Our curriculum helps with all that and gives you these types of activities to be able to really challenge and get your students active in their learning on nutrition. The next one's a fun one, is our taping and wrapping skill sim. Now, what you see here, it comes with all these parts and pieces. So it comes with Band-Aids, it comes with pre-wrap, it comes with adhesive tape, it comes with your splints. All of this is included in your kit. Now, why is all this included? Because it up and you let your students start to work and do the actual activity of taping and wrapping, letting them to know what the proper techniques are, how to actually do this, what are the different tools to use, from scissors to tape cutters to really going through, okay, an air splint, and how do you put that on? How do you use that? How do you pump it up? How much do you pump it up? All the different types of splinting and taping and wrapping that you would need for this. So it comes with all these parts and pieces that then you can have your students be able to use and practice hands-on training. Now, the great piece about this is that they could practice with each other, or if you have a mannequin, if you have the ability there, you have arm and a leg of the mannequin, you can do it as well to a mannequin in this world. So why is this important? Again, for the NATA training, we focus on the areas here that you see in yellow highlight here, but it's that hands-on skill development, making them be able to do that over and again. It's going to start out and they're going to be not very good, and you're going to see that repetition is going to help them over time. The other one is that dexterity and technique. When they do it the first time to doing it the fifth time to the 10th time, that technique and dexterity is going to be so much better. But trying it and trial and error, doing it the first time to the last time, especially when you're having your students work on each other, they can feel that, oh, this is too tight, this is too loose. Having them be able to not only do it to somebody else, but have it done to them, so they can put themselves in that place and see how that's worked. And then there's a visual learning of taping and actually seeing how it's done. That repetitive nature is really one of the best ways, the only ways to get it right, to be able to do that over and over again. And so with our product, we have that ability to do that over and over again and allow students to be able to do that. So one of the things that we have is what we would call our taping technique challenge. Within the curriculum here with doing it, we have different wrist and ankle checkoffs or checklists. In this case, what you would want to do is have your students go into a group, be able to, within that group, work together, assign them a scenario, what the situation is. What are you going to do with it? If it's a wrist taping activity, an ankle taping activity, have teams correctly apply the tape or the wrapping need. Have them think through what is the best reason why they would do it, and then have them go through that scenario. Sometimes it would be best to have students grade themselves. That would be a great way to kind of scaffold. Start with them grading themselves. How do they feel? Maybe you do the challenge again, and now you have a judge. It's a class judge. Or maybe you have a ranking system or a point system. What did they do right? What did they do wrong? What do you need to do to increase? So bring some competition, some challenge into one of your taping technique parts, or a day where you do some technique challenges, and have students grade themselves, see what they did right, what they did wrong, have them critique themselves, have them to see what they could do better, what they like, have the person who they're taping talk to them. What do they see? There's a larger implication here of not just did I do the technique right, but how am I handling that person's wrist? How am I handling that person's ankle? What am I doing with that? How am I talking to them? There's that interaction with your patient, your athlete there. What are you interacting with them? How do you do that? That's a great way to use this product, to use this kit to have that hands-on real life learning in your classroom. The next one I want to talk about, and we do have this one in our class or in our room here as well, is environmental factors in sports medicine. This is another great kit. All of them come in a box kit. It has a lot of different parts and pieces. So there's light meters. So I have that here where you can go out and actually do a reading with your light meter here and be able to go through the whole process of letting the light shine on this and be able to see what your light is and how much that is in that work. We also have an environmental protection detector series. So in this case here, we have your ability to track humidity, and temperature. All right. Give them that opportunity to go outside, try it at different parts and different times. We use that kind of that stress meter to be able to go through the different lessons that we're going to talk about today. It hits a lot of different areas in there. So we have heat sensors, we have different abilities and different activities where students need to work through the kind of the understanding of what environmental factors are going to play a role in our athletes. So the NTA training here really hits on a lot of different factors, but it's really that the response that the body's going to have to environmental stressors. So where do you draw the line? What should you be focusing on? Where are those issues? So, we talk about things like lightning and thunder and different weather things, but we also talk about, SPF and what type of sunscreen, what type of humidity issues do you have, what type of temperature and what it does to the body. So it brings that awareness and focuses on the environment and how that's going to have an effect on students. There's a lot of this out there in the world today where we see where students get dehydrated, students get themselves, athletes get themselves where there's even been deaths to this place because they're not taking into account not just what the athlete's doing, but the environment around it. And so this is a great piece to bring in to allow students to trial and to understand what the environment has and the effect it has on the body as well. One of the great pieces here that we have, and this is from the curriculum, and you use the product itself to be able to go out and find the temperature and the humidity. So you use that, and then you use the wet bulb globe temperature test here, and you actually go through this where you give a scenario. All right. Our scenario today is we're going to have a football practice and we know it's going to be extremely hot. So you walk through, what are you going to do? Now, if you have the ability to, you can go out and have the students use this so they can get that reading and see what it is. Now, in this case, we're all from different parts of the country. One of the things that we suggest is that if you would go out and it's a spring day, it's a fall day, you can look at that temperature and say, okay, where is it that it's going to be an extreme heat? And so, depending on where you are, you could say, now, whatever your temperature is, add 40 degrees, add 30 degrees, add 50 degrees, depending on what time of year it is, you can add that. So then all of a sudden they have to use the chart. They have to be able to go back and look at it and say, okay, degrees in humidity, degrees in Fahrenheit, walk through that, and then being able to use the guidelines for safe practices there that you see with all the multicolors there and start looking at, okay, what does this mean? If it would read this, here's what we should probably start working on. What that helps you do, and this activity is, how do you communicate to coaches? How do you communicate to players? How do you communicate to other participants that are going to be involved? How do you communicate to the students if let's say you still go forward with it? Hey, it's hot out. It's just not that hot out. Or it's cold out, but it's not that cold out. So what do you do in this case? You work with your coaches, you work with the athletes. What do we need to do? Get the protocols in place, talk to your students. It's a great feature and a great teaching tool to be able to then look at the scenarios. In the scenarios here, you can walk through those scenarios and say, okay, if it's not going to be hot, what do you need to do? Do you need to have more water on hand? Do you need to have a shaded area? What are you going to do? What things that you have to be thinking of when this happens? And then again, what are those barriers that you can put in? How long that they can practice? When they can practice? Can you change the time period of practicing? All this stuff brings in that critical thinking opportunity just within this product itself, allowing you to really hit on a lot of these different standards that you need to teach anyway. Next one here is our rehabilitation modalities scenario kit. This is a opportunity here, and it's a paper-based kit where we have different workbooks and we have curriculum that allows your students and flashcards to go through different scenarios. Each one of them gives a scenario for students to be able to read through and then talk through and actually work through the scenario situation. There's 25 different scenarios that our workbook kind of shows that focuses on different issues. Some of them are very similar. And so, the type of injury, but then what are you going to do with that? What kind of rehabilitation does that student need? What kind of modality does that student need? What are the different phases of rehabilitation that we need to give them? This allows for students to really to understand the ability to, what are those practical applications that we do? How often do we do that application of rehabilitation? The timing of it, the intensity of it, all those different things. Do you have to switch from one to the other? When do you know to do that? So it really helps you understand that role of modalities in healing and how to get to that healing place. It also is a great problem solving skills, and it adds that piece to your classroom, allowing students to go through these simulations and scenarios and being able to walk through the situations that happening at hand. What do I do about it? It comes with the curriculum for the teacher to walk through every single type of the modalities that really focus on injured athletes, and what do you do in that world to help them through that. An example that we have that's within the curriculum and included here in our PowerPoints is what we would call is rehab protocol design. So it allows you to present a scenario. So take the student workbook, tell them all to go to scenario 11. You go through that scenario and say, we're going to design a basic rehab protocol for scenario 11. Have the students then start working. In one area that they can work on is work on the circle of care. Okay, athlete in the middle. Who's that circle of care around them? All right. Is it the parent? Is it the coaches? What type of sport is it? So then, will the parent be there? Will a coach be there? Is it a individual sport? Is it a team sport? What do you need to do with others that are involved there? What's that circle of care, and how do you then, identify and highlight that? That's just one area that you can use this rehab protocol design. Another one is, all right, what was the issue? What happened? How did it happen? All right, was it something that could have been preventable? All right, did they stretch beforehand? Should they have stretched more? Is it a injury that was reoccurring? Walking through those different situations to then say, okay, now knowing that, how would you change your rehabilitation? What would you need to do to help in that world? So the circle of care is a great opportunity to be able to use and work within that. Our last kit today that we're going to talk about is our concussion education kit. And this one here, it really focuses on that traumatic brain injury, and it is a concussion simulation experience. Now, what really happens in this world? So in this case, I have one pair. You get 10 of these, but it works very uniquely in the sense of you actually have glasses. Now, these are glasses where I have glasses that can work over top of glasses. If you don't have glasses, you can put them right on. You have a special type of glass here that what you do in this case, then you put the glasses on. You then have a headset and an MP3 player that you play, and it is giving you sounds. It's making you get kind of this the signs and symptoms that you would have during a concussion. So the really neat thing about this is that it has the student get an understanding of what a concussion is like. Now, there's two sides to that. It gives that empathy to have an understanding of, okay, what am I working with? but it also allows you to work with another person to have them say, okay, now they're the one with concussion. How would you treat them? How do you interact with them? What are you looking for? What are the situations that you need to do? So it walks through all the signs and symptoms. It works through that traumatic brain injury and how to prevent it, but also how to treat it. And so this is that other side is once it happens, okay, how do we treat that? So it talks about the prevention, but it's also about what do we do to make sure that we walk through that. So in this case here, it works with the NATA training, increase the awareness of concussion risk as it becomes bigger and more talked about within sports medicine, the seriousness of injuries, and then also appropriate response and management within that. So working through that and recognizing that concussion. Now, want to talk through is as you do this, as you put these on, as you have this, we would call it, we have within the curriculum a concussion experience checklist. Now, there's one side to it is working through the signs and symptoms. So physical, sensory, cognitive, behavioral, working through that. What are the signs you have? What are the symptoms felt by that person? There's opportunity within the kit to have students go on this and walk through a scenario that walks them through that. What we want to talk about today is that concussion experience checklist is have students use the case study. There's in this visual here, there's 10 different scenarios that are stations that they can go through, and there's a case study that's different on every single one. They walk through that the understanding of a head injury and then identify, okay, what could be the symptoms, both the physical, sensory, cognitive, or behavioral? What are those symptoms? What are those signs? And work through that together. Bring them back together and then have students go out and learn from that in the sense of go and try another one, do a different station or a different scenario that they can go through that checklist as well. Bringing them back together then to walk through what did it feel like for you personally? And how did you interact with that person who has a concussion to get them on the road to health? So working through that, we have those checklists to help in that world for you. Now, with all these said, there's these 5 different kits are all focused on different areas within the NATA standards to make sure you're giving your students the best opportunity for credentialing, for learning to move into that world. These are all helpers that can get you into where you need for that certification credentialing needs. This is that hands-on learning tool to then really ingrain and bring that opportunity to remember these great learning opportunities that help you then go out and actually put them into practice. The other piece is align your students' activities with the needs of the athlete or participant you're helping. So again, going back to the scenario, the space, and the skill, what is that scenario? What is that situation? There can be a lot of differences, a lot of things that you need to look at from nutrition to environmental factors to even taping and wrapping when you're talking about different sports activities, from a gymnast to a wrestler to a swimmer to a football player to a basketball player, whatever it is, there are differences. And so align with what type of activities they're working with. Get them into those understanding of the differences, not only in what they're doing, but how it affects the outcomes and the decision-making process that they'll have. The other one, keep aligned with professional protocols and best practices. We align ourselves with that. Our products align with that. We are using those things to then give the best understanding to our user here and to you to help with PowerPoint slides, with worksheet and activities, with curriculum, with our user guides, allowing you to just implement into your classroom with these. And then the last one, I always say, when in doubt, work it out. Include the hands-on components and scenarios in all you do. Have students be able to touch and feel. Try, do the activities that we bring into your classroom. Have them do the scenarios. Have them do the hands-on learning. Interact with the products. Interact with each other using our products. Those simulations, those scenarios, those experiences is what makes that learning come to life and then allows them to have that knowledge base where it says, yes, I've done this before. I've done this simulation. I can now go do it in the real world. So those are some helpful hints for you as we go here. With that being said, let's connect. we want to make sure that if there's any questions you have, if you're interested in these products, if you want a quote, if you have more questions, scan this and we will get back to you. Right now, we're going to go into a question and answer time if you do have any questions. Otherwise, go ahead and click on this. And with that being said, we look forward to any questions you might have at this time.